Well, I want to thank you for coming. It is a snowy day, and last year I got Zoomed because it was COVID. So this year we're going to try again and see if we can get some more people excited about traveling. For those of you who don't know me, I'm a retired nurse. I worked at the Ford Hospital for over 41 years. And because as I worked on my career, I got more and more vacation time and started going more and more places. And by the time I retired, I was probably doing 3 or 4 vacations a year. So now I'm retired, and I took off traveling all over, and then COVID happened and my wings were clipped, and we started traveling again last April. So my sister and I traveled together, and we've been going everywhere. So when the library called and said, do you want to do another presentation? I said, well, sure. Because I went to the Rose Bowl a couple years ago, and I decorated a float and saw the bands and the parades and the float construction and everything involved in it. And I thought, perfect, I have a slideshow already made up. It's exciting, it's fun. And then this year at Christmas, between Christmas and New Year's, I went to New Orleans and I did a riverboat cruise. And part of the whole trip included the Mardi Gras Museum. And I stepped foot in the Mardi Gras Museum and decided that this is what my talk has to be about, because Mardi Gras was going to start in a couple days. So we're going to celebrate Mardi Gras. So Mardi Gras officially starts 12 days after Christmas, King's Day, the 12th day of Christmas. And it started this year on January 6th, and it runs through February 21st. At midnight on the 21st, everything shuts down and it's done. It's thought, you may have heard it called Pancake Day or Shrove Tuesday. They also have a Lundi Gras, and that's the Monday before beginning of Ash Wednesday. And that's also kind of a day that's celebrated, but not like Mardi Gras. Mardi Gras is not just the parades, it is galas, festivals, celebrations, parties. It's the whole ball of wax. Now, the first couple of weeks of Mardi Gras, there's not much going on except for the weekends. But once we hit 2 weeks before Mardi Gras, so that would be like the 7th the 7th. Things were starting to ramp up, and there were more and more parties and galas and balls. So we're in Mardi Gras right now. Mardi Gras is the official Fat Tuesday, and it's called Fat Tuesday because they felt that we needed to get rid of our heavy, fatty foods, use up all our things, and because we're getting ready to prepare for the fasting of Lent. So that's why I got the Fat Tuesday name. So Mardi Gras is celebrated pretty much everywhere in the South, but New Orleans takes its cue from them. Mardi Gras, or New Orleans, is called the Big Easy. And how it got its name was in the 60s, New York was working on their labeling, and they came up with the Big Apple. New Orleans felt that they were a much slower and relaxed pace. Everything in the South is much slower, so they should be called the Big Easy. So that's how they got the Big Easy. So Mardi Gras affects their economy immensely. Economic reports say that Mardi Gras generates $1 billion, billion with a B, for annual spending. So if you're planning on going to New Orleans to celebrate some Mardi Gras this weekend and stay about 5 days, expect to spend a minimum of $2,600 between your airfare, your hotel, your foods, your trinkets, your alcohol, and all the things that go on with the Mardi Gras celebration. If you're looking to splurge, we can do some luxury things and stay at a fancier hotel, but we can also get you on a float. There are certain tour companies that offer to be on the floats, but that's going to run you between $3,000 and $5,000 more. Now expect crowds, and I'll show you some pictures of crowds a little bit later. But Mardi Gras is not, if you like your personal space, this is not your event. There is no such thing as personal space. It's not shoulder to shoulder. It's body to body. It's very close. It's very crazy. And there are certain places, and we'll show you some pictures of well, not bad pictures, but we'll show you Bourbon Street. But a lot of cities throughout the whole South celebrate Mardi Gras. So one of the places that I went on my trip was called Point Coupe, and it's a little city about as big as Cambridge. in Louisiana. And really, from the top of the hill in Cambridge all the way down to the bottom, that's about how big the city is. They have 2 parades on Mardi Gras Tuesday, and they last 4 to 5 hours apiece, and they draw 100,000 people. So can you imagine 100,000 people in Cambridge? But they're all family friendly. They're very tame compared to some of the places. My aunt lived in Biloxi, Mississippi, and they had Mardi Gras parades. She worked for part of a nursing home, and she helped transport the people in their wheelchairs to the Mardi Gras parades. And they threw beads, and that's, I guess, one of the things you're missing by not being here is I have all kinds of beads for everybody if they want beads, because beads are the big thing. Anyway, these beads I really feel are magic because they make people smile. When you go to a venue, to your admission for the museum is a pair of beads, and people, as soon as you put them on, people start smiling, and they wear them all day and night, whether they match their outfit or not. So the beads are the big thing. But anyway, my aunt worked there, got these tons of beads from all these residents that she was transporting that didn't want them anymore, and she sent my mom a box of beads. My mom was so tickled about getting a box of beads, and all the kids in the family were tickled about getting a box of beads. And my aunt, who was not a touchy-feely aunt, was tickled about giving out beads. So to me, the beads are kind of a special thing. So there's some controversy about who had the first parade and who celebrates the most. And they thought that Mardi Gras was first celebrated in Mobile, Alabama. I have to make sure I say it Mobile, Alabama, because I spent a lot of time with Lady, and it's not Mobile, it's Mobile. So anyway, they first had a parade in 1699, so just a few years back, and people liked it, so they kept coming back. So in 1703, they decided that they were going to make this an annual event. Well, New Orleans said that, you know, they've been doing it for a long time too, but they weren't established as a city until 1718. So they felt that, generally speaking, Mobile had the first one, but then again, New Orleans has a big parade, but Point Coupe says that they're the first parade in Louisiana. So they all fight about the parades, but they're all fun and they have a good time. So Mardi Gras is a federal holiday in Alabama, Florida, and Louisiana. And once you see all the people that are there, you'll understand why banks are closed and you don't get mail and everything pretty much shuts down. So the traditional colors of Mardi Gras are purple, gold, and green. And they were chosen in 1892. The purple is for justice, the gold is for power, and the green is for faith. The king cake, though, is one of the traditional cakes of Mardi Gras. And I do have a king cake here, and it was supplied by Papa Brunk's bakery. He just wants to make sure that you guys all know that they do specialty things. And I should give them a shout out and thank them for helping me get this cake together. Up here in the north, we don't really celebrate Mardi Gras, and king cakes are kind of a rarity. So he had to work to figure out how to make this cake, but he's willing to do anything that's a special order. So just keep that in mind for your events. But anyway, the traditional king cake is thought to maybe have some biblical roots. It can be glazed or frosted. It can be a pastry. It can be a bun cake. It can be a sheet cake, but it's thought to be a cake that's shaped like the crown, like the kings wore. On January 6th, they felt that the kings were coming to see baby Jesus. And that's where the king part of the cake comes. And they felt that they brought the myrrh, frankincense, and gold, but they probably bought some sweets too. So that's where the king part comes from, and that's why it's shaped that way. There's a baby inside. Now that's kind of a new add-on, and that's thought to represent the baby Jesus. But it's said that whoever gets the baby in the cake either gets to have the next party, they have good luck for the year or for the day. It's kind of up to you. You decide what your baby's gonna represent. The baby in my cake is a jelly bean, it's jelly bean. But you can use gumdrops or like baking beans in there because they're afraid of, especially with family-friendly events, of somebody choking on the baby. So my baby is a gumdrop. So what are we gonna wear to this event? Pretty much whatever you have in your closet is gonna work. As you can tell, I got beads, and I didn't have to show anything nasty to get beads. I've been in New Orleans 3 times, so I've got a whole shipment of beads. But anyway, in New Orleans, there's the French market, and that's on the right. And it's a big open market that's open every day of the year. And you can see on the left, that was on January 3rd, and there was nothing happening there, but it still was open and you could still buy things. But Decatur Street is the big tourist street in the city where they have t-shirt shops and food shops and everything you can think of. You can get gator bites, you can get gumbo, you can get shrimp, you can get everything you can think of to eat that would be Southern. You can buy in the French market. They go for bold. So you can tell that everything it doesn't have to be this color. I have red and I have purple, and I have pink and I have blue. So whatever beads you like pretty much is whatever you want to buy, but you can buy all that. But they like bold and crazy. So crazy tights, tutus, feather boas, sparkly things, wild glasses, crowns, whatever you get, the more jazzed up you are, the more you're going to fit in. So you'll find something at the market that will work for you. So the beads are available everywhere for you to purchase, but we'll talk a little bit about those in just a bit, but you can get masks and all that kind of good stuff. Now, all the costumes and things that they wear, they thought that the people on the floats have to wear a mask. It's a legal thing that they have to wear a mask. They felt though that if you wore masks, it allowed you to mingle and go outside your class and keep your reputation untarnished. So they want you to walk on the wild side, though. They encourage that, but they want you to keep mystery and tradition. So the float riders do wear a mask by city ordinance, and it is legal to wear a mask in New Orleans on Mardi Gras until 6 p.m. And then all the masks have to come off. So Cinderella kind of had an early curfew in that one. So they want you to shed your inhibitions and fully imbibe. So speaking of imbibing, there's open intoxicants everywhere in New Orleans. You can buy your Hurricane and walk down the street, and 3 blocks later buy another Hurricane, and it keeps going. But they also have drive-through alcoholic places. Like we have Dairy Queen, they have alcoholic places where, like, I'll take 3 Mai Tais and a Hurricane, and that's legal. They drive through and they can do that. You can have it in the car. The problem is that the driver cannot put his straw in. Once he puts his straw in, then it's an open intoxicant and you're open to the police. So you can openly drink on the streets and have a wild, wild time. So bead etiquette. Throw me something, mister. That's what you're supposed to yell at the people on the floats to get them to throw you beads. No, they don't just throw you beads. They throw you everything under the sun. Beads are kind of one of the biggest things. But the thing is that you must catch the beads. You can't let them land on the floor. It's considered poor taste or bad luck to pick up things off the ground. So the floats have this group, and I'll talk about them in a bit. They have a king and a queen and a maids and all this kind of royalty stuff. They throw the good stuff. They're going to be throwing you hats, doubloons, which are like beads with great big gold medallions on them that have the Krewes name, and they throw bras and belt buckles and mirrored compacts and painted coconuts. They throw everything. And if you go on the website of the parades, they'll tell you what parade is throwing what. So you know if you've been collecting a certain thing from the same crew, that you know where to go. So they throw everything. So they started throwing these beads in 1920. And the more beads you have, the merrier. You don't have to, stop at, I've got a few beads. You can have a whole head full of beads. You just keep collecting them and collecting them until you're happy. Now the beads now are plastic or metal. The beads in before 1960 were Czechoslovakian glass. And so I think that'd be a lot more fun to catch than plastic beads, but they're trying to make them more family friendly or ecologically friendly, because they're they're, just kind of a hazard for things, and I'll show you some pictures of that later. But the emergency room is dealing with eye injuries because of beads being thrown at them. They're dealing with skull fractures because people not catching the coconut that's coming at them. And they're dealing with, I'm guessing, thousands of alcohol-related incidents. And they're also dealing with a lot of ankle and foot injuries. The sidewalks in New Orleans are cobblestone. So there's cement, but they're all cobblestone. So it's actually kind of difficult to walk down the street and walk straight. You kind of weave a little bit on a good day. So as being in a nurse and worked in the emergency room, I can see that they're probably crazy, and this is probably not your favorite week to be working. So this is Bourbon Street on a good day. Has amazing architecture, all kinds of lattice, ironwork. It's very beautiful. It's very intricate. It's really interesting. It's kind of scary on a good day too, though, because there's always that underlying smell of alcohol that's just everywhere, and you don't really want to be there at dark on a good day. It's not the place for most people to hang out. So remember what I was telling about your personal space, that there isn't any. Here's another example of even more people. So they're shoulder to shoulder, body to body. And in 1969, Women's Lib came along, and they gave this whole thing a different element. And that's where they throw me something, mister, and then they showed him something, mister. So that's where all the breast bearing came. That only happens it probably only happens on Bourbon Street, but I bet it happens everywhere else too. But Bourbon Street is not a family-friendly place, and even the locals don't go there because it's just too wild. So alcohol is flowing freely. The locals avoid this area. But is there any question why New Orleans was the super spreader, and Mardi Gras was a super spreader event that started COVID in the United States? And Mardi Gras is a season. It's not a day. So again, it starts on the 6th and it goes through February 21st this year. And the weekends are the busier parts, but it's not just a day. It's 2 weeks, especially the 2 weeks beforehand. So any street that you go on, there are going to be beads everywhere. So they throw these beads and they end up on roofs and in the little lattice work of the metal. They end up in trees. They end up on wires, regular wires, and the trolley car cable wires, and they pretty much hang there. So when I was there in January, before Mardi Gras, there were still beads in the trees and in the wires from last year. They cleared the trolley car cable so that there's no problems there, but there are beads everywhere. And again, they fear it's bad luck to pick up beads. So there'll be bits of beads on the ground everywhere, tucked in little nooks and crannies. There's just beads everywhere. And I also think it's the city of eternal mylar glitter and plastic, because it just is stuck in the nooks and crannies of the streets as you walk down. It's just everywhere. So it's crazy. And we weren't even during the official carnival. We left on the 4th, so carnival hadn't even started yet for them. So we'll talk a little bit about the parades in a little bit, but first we're going to go to where my inspiration started. So this is Blaine Kern's Mardi Gras World. It's the home of a 3-generation float building business. They make 500 to 600 floats a year, and they're not all made from scratch, but they can recycle and repair and use things over and over. So he started in 1932, and it's still family owned. And his characters are not just used for the Mardi Gras parade. They're used for other things. If you have a corporate event and you want a corporate, like the dancing house for Chick-fil-A, they've done those. So they have them in their corporations. Or if you see a big unusual sculpture in a casino or a business, it probably came from Blaine Kern Studios. So you can go into this museum all year round. They work on the floats 50 weeks a year, and then they have 2 weeks off, the 2 weeks before the craziness. And then they start all over again. So it's all started by these Krewes, and at one point they were a secret society, and they were clubs or associations, like we would maybe have the Lions Club or the Elks, that kind of thing. They were once all secret, but now they have to have public membership lists. They're responsible for the theme of their parade. Mardi Gras, every parade has a theme. It's not one whole big theme for the whole city. And they pick out their theme, and they have to figure out what the floats they're going to have, and the costumes and all the participants, because you all have to be costumed to be on the float. They also may pick a celebrity to be on their float, like a movie star or something that'll be on their float. The Krewe of Rex is the biggest crew in New Orleans, and it was founded in 1872. And their king is selected to rule over all the parades. And on Mardi Gras, on the Monday, he comes up the river on a riverboat and gets off, and it's a big celebration. And then they present him with the key to the city, and there's celebrations and everything. So it's a big deal. So there's all these crews, and I think I counted there were over 103 crews when I looked at the website again. The Krewe of Zulu, they're the ones that throw the painted coconuts. They throw cups and doubloons, stuffed animals, hats. And again, the good stuff, that's the celebrities or the king and queen that are throwing that stuff. So you want to make sure you get their attention. Remember, you can ride on the float, but again, $3,000 to $5,000, depending on the crew. So the average float costs $30,000 to $100,000. So it all starts when the crew picks a theme. And this year, I'm not sure which crew this is, but they picked sports. And so they start out with an artist rendering of what they want the float to look like. And then the artist submits it to the crew. They all vote on it and decide whether this is what they're going to do. And from there, it starts working. Now, the Yankee body that's there, he's probably the one that's holding the bat. They haven't added the bat yet, and they haven't added his head. So his head could have been in another parade another year, and now they're going to put it on this guy. So not everything is from scratch. So they do work hard, but this is he'll be on one of the floats this year. This is from last year. This was the crew of Cleopatra, and she had Cleopatra's jewels, and they would throw one of the floats would throw gold things or turquoise things or emerald things. They all have their little thing, but that was their thing. Now the Cleopatra, this is what she looked like on her barge. And the original barge, this barge was from Spain, and it's over 40 years old. And I thought, oh, that's old. No, that was one from the 80s, so it's not really that old. So, but it's old. It's old, and when you consider, what these floats probably go. So again, construction is about $30,000 to $100,000. So what happens is these floats can be made, or these characters can be made with, this is a latex mold. So they take the latex mold and they line it with paper mache and let it dry, pop it out, and they can use the same mold over and over and over. So they're all reusable. So here are some examples of the same latex mold, but it's different hair, different boy or girl. So you can see the similarities and the differences. Now the graduate on the left, he is being taken apart and being reconfigured to be something else or somebody else, but it's all paper mache, so they can just take it apart without any problems. And here's me with two more molds, and our first gentleman is probably a mold too, because he's all over. This was the spooky one. There's again the same figure, just jazzed up a little different. So it all starts out with foam, styrofoam. Just like go to Menards and buy all the foam they have, and it's glued together with the expanding foam. Am I on there? They can see. Okay, I just want to make sure that they can see me. It starts with this foam, and it's very lightweight. That we all have used it at home. And what happens is they glue it together to the thickness they want. And again, lots of foam. So they glue it together to the thickness they want, and they can hand carve it with knives and things that you'd have in your kitchen. They just hand carve them, and then they smooth them down with another piece of foam. So they're very, very smooth when they get started. Now they're using 3D robotics. So they can probably put out as many of the molded objects as they can do now 3D and repeat the same figurine. But again, there's everything everywhere. Some of the things, like I said, 500, 600 floats a year, but Disney, Universal Studios, and a lot of corporations are using them. So it starts out, even the styrofoam ones, once they've got them carved out and decide they're happy with it, they cover them with paper mache, just like you would have in kindergarten. Brown paper bags, flour, and water, and that's how they start. Then they let them dry and they give them a base coat of white. And then they go from the color from there. So they'll paint the basic colors, and they're using interior latex house paint, just like we would buy it at Ace Hardware. So just plain old house paint. If they are draping it like behind a big curtain where they want some flowing to go and make it look like it's moving, they'll add baby powder to it. And baby powder makes the paint flexible and helps it not crack. So they can get more dimension. They also then airbrush it so that it gets more lifelike. Now this is a figurine of something that was broken, and you can see the styrofoam and the layers of paper mache and paint that are on it. And some of the little pieces, like the finger dust, have some wires coming out of them, so give them some support. So this is what the Mardi Gras Museum looks like. There are figures everywhere. The museum is probably as busy as our old Kmart building from end to end. It's just huge, and there are figures everywhere. And they were working on floats as we were there. So it's really crazy. So they not only make new ones, they restore old ones. So they said that the gorilla is one of the probably most popular things that are reused. They want things to be bright and colorful. Again, very few corporate sponsors. These are all crew sponsored parades. The corporations are the ones who will will order the dancing cow, and then once it's used and sent back to the factory, they can take off the corporate markings and turn it into a dancing cow on any other float. So the corporation paid the big bucks to get the figurine, and now the crews can use it and pay a smaller fee. So, and again, colorful and bright. And this figurine is probably about 5 foot tall. Again, you can see that it's been airbrushed. One of the things they say is that you're supposed to stand back and look at it from 12 to 20 feet because that's how far away they are when they judge it, and squint it a little bit to make, look better. But I was right up to these, and there is no squinting needed. They are very clear and just impressive. So these two figurines, they have glitter on them. So those are examples of figures that are going to be in like Disney World or Universal, because the glitter is not weather friendly. So after they paint all these things, then they spray sealer over it, a resin to seal it in, so it is weather friendly, but the glitter is not. So those are the inside things for corporations or in a Disney or a Universal kind of thing. So this is my first dragon, and he's all jazzed up now. Originally, they just used like spotlights or Christmas tree lights on. They were pretty and lit up, but now we've gone into the generation of the fiber optics, so they can refigure these and make them even more stunning. So stand back and look at your float. Squint your eyes a little bit. And if you notice, first of all, on this float, they all have masks on. You can't quite see them clear, but you notice it's being pulled by a tractor. And these floats are pulled by tractors or trucks. They're not like the Rose Bowl floats where there's a little man sitting inside and following a little yellow line on the road. They're pulled by actual trucks and tractors because they feel that if the tractor or the truck breaks down, they can easily get another tractor or truck in, pull that one out, and the parade keeps going. So there's not any delays. All the floats are fully insured. They have fire extinguishers on them. And this is my one that I think you probably have to squint a little bit because it's not as crystal clear. But remember, 30,000 to 100,000. This is probably in the 30,000 range and not the 100,000 range. But they're all in masks, and there's 30 to 40 people on each float, and they all throw beads. So there's 30 to 40 people on a float, all throwing beads, And the float moves at about 3 miles an hour, and the parade lasts for 5 hours. So that's a lot of beads to be thrown. Plus, 5 hours on a float. I'm guessing there's probably some alcohol involved in that too. But they're gonna have to go to the bathroom. So inside, in every float, there's a disguised porta potty. So my guess is the big figure, the big sun in the middle is where their porta potty is. So they've got all kinds of rules. They've got a whole handbook of things that they can and can't do on their floats, but they have a porta potty. The parades, like I said, I looked on the website and they tell you where the parades are, but they generally follow the same route every year. Their times might change, but so this is a train float. They can hook 3 or 4 floats together and call it a train. It's a train and a train float. And what I thought interesting with this one is they don't have masks on. So I'm not sure where this parade was, but New Orleans says they need to have masks on. So, okay, sounds easy. Let's have the crew of Dwight Foster. And we're going to do a Mardi Gras parade. How hard can it be? Okay, so we need between 20 and 50 floats at $30,000 to $100,000 a piece. We need all the beads that they're all going to throw, and a box of beads is about 360 beads, and they cost $40. And you have 40 people throwing beads for 3 to 4 hours. So, and then you have to have your special things. You have to have your beaded bras or your hats or your doubloons or your drink cups or whatever. So, okay, it's starting to get expensive. And then we have to add dance troops. So they have to have all kinds of dance troops in your parade. So we got that going. And then we need to invite the bands. So it's already getting pretty expensive. There's another group that gets invited to parades. They're kind of a more serious group. This is the Mardi Gras Indians, and they have named themselves after the Native Indians to pay respect to the African Americans who accepted the slaves into their society and helped them make their break for freedom. So they've never forgotten this, so they always are supporting them. This group, the Indian groups, all these feather costumes, they say they're only used once, but I have a feeling they're probably used more than that because they're very, very intricate with not just beads, all kinds of jewels and everything, but they're more secretive. They don't really tell you where their parade is and when their parade is. They just kind of show up. So, and they don't use the same route every year. So it's a little bit different. So we've got them now to add to our group. But now we have to have a ball or a gala or a party or whatever. And the gowns that the kings and queens wear are extremely elaborate. They're handmade and they're only used once. They're not used over and over. Mobile, Alabama has the Mardi Gras Gown Museum. It's a big mansion and it's just gown after gown after gown. You just can't believe all the stuff that's there. So let's just go sightseeing because it's getting too expensive. So New Orleans has so many things that you can see and do. They have the National World War II Museum that is about 4 or 5 city blocks long. It has walkways that go between the buildings and the blocks, and it's several floors high too. So it's not just one level. It's huge, huge, huge. When we were there, we did a good portion of the museum. I saw the Pacific or the Pacific Theater, but we never got to the European Theater. By that point, I was kind of museumed out. So, but very, very interesting to visit. They also have the city tour where you can see all the sites, the Garden District, which has the beautiful mansions. And then they take you through some of the not so pretty areas. They take you through to see the shotgun houses that are a long, skinny house, where if you open the front door and the back door, you can shoot a shotgun through it and not hit anything. So that's how they got their name. They still have some Katrina houses that have the great big circle and the X through it that tells you what date they inspected the house, if there was anybody they found in it alive or dead. So it's that X is still very meaningful. So it's there's still a few of those around. The other place that you can go is the cemeteries. Cemeteries are extremely interesting. They can be very frightening, but I was there in the fall and it was so hot in there. You just can't imagine that from the outside of the cemetery to the inside of the cemetery, the temperature probably rose 20 degrees because they're all cement. The picture on the left is one of the cemeteries. That was city cemetery number 3. There are all these like sheds or huge dog houses that are made out of cement and marble and very intricate. And they're your family's plot. So your family from 1792, they can be in there, and every year you're added to the plot. What happens is you're in a special casket that goes into the top of the crypt, and you have to be in there a year and a day because that's how long it takes with the heat to cremate you. So if you die within 3 months, if grandma died today and 3 months from now you die, you go into a holding crypt where you're kept till grandma's a year and a day, and then they put you in that crypt, push grandma back, she falls down into the ground. So that's where you get ashes to ashes, dust to dust. They are all above ground because New Orleans is below sea level. So that's how they bury their people. So that's really a very interesting place. And it can be very frightening. On one of our tours, our tour guide said, "Don't leave me. Don't go wandering. Stay right with me." And we all did. We were like a little pod of people that moved through the cemetery. The other place is along Decatur Street is Cafe du Monde, where they have the little beignets. They are a fried pastry that's covered with powdered sugar. So you will, if you're wearing black, they'll all know you were at Cafe du Monde. When we were there the day after Christmas, the line to get a beignet was over 2 hours long. And when we went back the day after New Year's, you could walk right up and get your beignet. They also had a bowl game going at that time. So there's a lot of people there. You can visit Lake Pontchartrain. You can there's so much to see in New Orleans and so much to do. So it's time to clean up. But let me just go back a little bit and tell you about the king and queen. The kings and queens, like in Point Coupé, the Lions Club, a gentleman from the Lions Club is selected as the king. And a granddaughter of a lion is selected as the queen. So that's how they go through this process. And they're kind of kept secret. They're announced at their galas and their balls. So now we have to clean up. Mardi Gras produces 1.2 million pounds of garbage in less than 14 days. And most of the trash is the single-use cups, plastic beads, hats, doubloons, anything that's fallen on the ground. It all ends up as garbage. In 2018, they pulled 93,000 pounds of beads out of the sewer system that was leading into Lake Pontchartrain because the water was flowing so slowly. So that's why they're doing a push to get more friendly beads, because all these beads probably are just loaded with lead. So they want to try to clean things up. So you went to the parade and now you've got a whole head full of beads. So now what do you do? Because you went last year, the year before, so now you've got all these boxes of beads. They have bead recycling stations, just like the little box that's at Pick and Save, the little metal box. They have hundreds of those all over the city where you can take your beads and put them in, and then a company or a corporation or group will recycle them, clean them up, sort them, and then resell them to the Krewes, and they'll use that money for charities, and they contribute to the state, nationally, and they said all throughout the world they have charities that they contribute to. So 25 million pounds of beads are thrown during Mardi Gras. And that's just some of them. So this all started because I went on a riverboat cruise. This is the American Queen. She's the largest riverboat on the Mississippi, and we spent 7 days on it. And I've been on Caribbean cruises, and they're very fast and moving and busy. And the riverboat sounded really slow, and I was worried that I was going to be bored out of my mind. And I bought 2 books, and I never cracked one open because there is something mysterious and that just draws you in about the Mississippi River. It's a very muddy, like chocolate milk river. And this time of year, it looked like Fort Atkinson. It was very stark. There weren't any leaves. Before we got there, they had their cold snap, and we had the cold snap and snow. They got down into the 20s and 30s down there. So their palm trees were all frost damaged. But so there wasn't a whole lot of beautiful scenes to see. but the river was so calming and relaxing. I never looked at my books. It was very just relaxing. The top layer of the boat is all white rocking chairs, and it was 75 degrees. So you just sit in your rocking chair and you watch whatever birds and wildlife may show up on the shores. You watch the boats go down, the barges go down, the tows go down, and you know, the first time you see a big towboat, you take a picture, and then after a while you realize that, you know, we've seen 100 of those now, so we don't need to take any more pictures. But it was just so relaxing. It wasn't the fast paced. It also got hit by all the storms and stuff that were happening in the Midwest. The boat is supposed to hold 400 people. They had 300 people sign up and 198 show up because of the Southwest stuff. So people just couldn't get out. So we almost had a private cruise. Traveling is knowledge is a Kenyan proverb, and we went to a Black History Museum is where I found that, and I thought that was really so appropriate, that traveling is knowledge. So thanks for having me, but travel while you can. If you're looking at going on a trip, look at multiple companies. There's different companies that go to the same place, but maybe different hotels, or they look at different aspects where there's museum related or art related. You just have to find the style that fits you. But especially since COVID, don't hesitate if you really want to go someplace. I know the company that we're using right now more often, their 2023 Alaskan cruises are just about sold out, and it's only January or February. So things are booking fast because we're just all free and traveling again. So remember that when you're traveling, you get what you pay for. So if you get a really cheap cruise, you're not going to be staying at a high quality hotel or getting high quality meals. So again, you get what you pay for. So any questions that anybody has?
Do you have a favorite?
The company, we're using two right now that we're going between. We have done Globus and Colette, but they're national and worldwide companies. The one that we picked now, we found through the television, is Holiday Travel. Holiday Travel is based on Boas, and a lot of their, if you see the newscasters, they're going someplace like Milwaukee uses them, Madison uses them. They're going as a group with somebody someplace, they'll use them. They take care of you so well. I just can't tell you how well we were taken care of. Our tour guide called us before we left to introduce himself and find us, so we knew something about him before we got on, and he knew about us. The last day we were flying home, his phone went off at 3 o'clock in the morning with news that Minneapolis was iced in, and he worked on everybody a new flight. He didn't have you on your own trying to find a flight. He helped people. He sent us a text every day, what we were planning. Even though we were on a boat, we were doing the same thing. Breakfast was always the same time, lunch was always the same time, but he told you things that might be interesting for you to see, to make sure you saw in the city. I just can't impress how much they took care of us. And the other company we're using is Country Travel Discoveries. They're out of Milwaukee, Greendale. They were part of the Ryman Brothers and the Reader's Digest at one point, and then they broke off. But when they do a tour, they try to do something local. So when we went with them out to Virginia, Delaware, Maryland, we did a crab day where we learned the difference between boy crabs, girl crabs, red crabs, blue crabs, soft shell crabs, every kind of crab you can think of. We learned how they made the little crab cages. We went out on a boat and saw where they put the crab cages and how they harvested the crabs. I mean, we did everything crab. We went to the place where they clean the crabs. And if you think you have a bad job, the people that are working in the little place with us, jackknife, sitting and cracking these crabs in a little cold, like old gas station. Doing that, your job is not bad. Then we took all our crab stuff that we got and we went to a local church. And we went and visited with the church ladies, and they helped us make biscuits and crab cakes. Then they let us off and go shopping. And then we came back to the church in the evening and the crab cakes. It was a whole day of just local, not sightseeing and doing all this. It was interesting that it was so local there. And every one of the trips they try to do that. So that and then I've been using Van Gelder too because they're convenient and they're local. And again, the things with Van Gelder sell out quickly, so if you see something on their website, jump at it, because they get booked very quickly, so I'm surprised. I think again, though, it's everybody getting their wings free for traveling after COVID, so a lot of people are traveling now. And so I enjoy traveling, I enjoy telling people about my travels, and
We appreciate the armchair experience today. You might have a question on our Zoom.
I had a question. What was the name of that, what was the name of that travel agency again?
Country Travels Discoveries.
Country
See-
Travel Discoveries?
Discoveries, right. And they do local things too. Last year I went with them and if you know, John McGivern from PBS.
Sure.
They did a trip, we went down to, we started at Dubuque and Galena, and then we ended up at the Cave of the Mounds and at, House of the Rock where he was filming. And he did a private presentation for us. And then we were extras. So hopefully in April, when it's gonna be on, I won't be on the cutting room floor, but they have another one coming up in September where they're also doing a John McGivern tour. So that's one of they do things that are local too. And they also have one with the bicycle guy on his program. I can't remember his name is right. Gouda.
Oh, John Gerda.
John Gerda, yeah. He's got a trip coming with them too. So
Where are you headed to next, Andy?
next is New York. We're doing New York with Van Gelder because they're going to the Pennsylvania crash site. They're going to the 9/11 memorial. They're going to the Empire State Building. They're going to the Statue of Liberty. I'm going again in fall, and I'll be going through New York, but they say you'll see the Statue of Liberty and you'll see the 9/11. So if you're going on a trip and it says you'll see it, that means you may be in the bus and see it go by. So when you look at trips, make sure that you know if you're going to go to, or when I went to Seattle, that's when our booking agent said you might want to go a day early because you'll see the Space Needle and you'll see Chihuly glass, but you're not going to go in it. So go a day early and do all that kind of stuff so that you have more time to search it out. But I can't really say enough about Holiday Travel. They've been so good, and they just really they take care of the details and everything. So anybody else have anything?
Thank you so much. Thank you, Sandy.
You're
This was
welcome.
Wonderful.
Yeah.